Hello, it's Strega. It's been a while since I've made a video. I've been really busy doing summer stuff. It gets really busy for those of us who have practices and families. There's a lot of stuff to be dried and ground up and bottled and all of that kind of stuff. Here's my little girl Faith with her
Joy.
Joy. My other daughter Faith did Joy's hair. She cut it and braided it and made it look so pretty and curled it on the bottom. Looks really awesome. So what's been going on with me? I have my little bell jingly earrings on, and I just in the mail today got my package of ancient eyeliner from Angelera. For those of you who haven't checked out her YouTube, it's awesome. She has a really great YouTube channel, and I ordered her eyeliner because she always looks so beautiful, and it's made with all natural products, and it's the type of eyeliner that I like to use, the gel kind with the little brush. So I haven't put it on yet. I cannot wait to try it. It is packaged so beautifully. So if you see this, thank you so much. I can't wait to try it. I'm really excited. And it'll last a really long time. It's a huge tub of eyeliner, and you only need like a tiny little speck of it when you put it on. So our family just got back from a camping trip. We went to the White Mountains in New Hampshire. It is so beautiful there. I hadn't been on a trip to the White Mountains in probably like 12 years. No, maybe a little less, but probably about a decade. So we camped in the mountains in a place called Twin Mountain, and we stayed in a campground with, it was actually with people from church. And I hadn't been camping in a long time because for those of you who are regular viewers, you guys know I have a really bad back from getting hit by a car like 13 or so years ago, and so I haven't really done anything like that in a while, but it was amazing. It was awesome, although I couldn't do like the big the hiking trips and stuff like that, because along Kingamingus Pass there's like a bunch of beautiful sights that people can see, natural wonders that are amazing, waterfalls and things like that. So my husband and Joy went on a beautiful hike to a waterfall. The waterfall came off like a huge cliff, and you couldn't even see where it was coming from way up the top of the mountain, and then it just comes cascading down, and they were able to get close enough where they could stand under it, drink from it, touch it and everything. So that was amazing. And me being the witchy girl that I am, the whole trip I was collecting things like mushrooms and pine cones and stuff like that. So all the little girls who were on the trip, when they went on the hike, they were collecting the mushrooms for me, and and it was really sweet. One of the girls, who was like 2 years old, she had her little pocket of her dress filled with mushrooms for me, and I guess they said every time she'd drop it, she'd get all worried. I have to get it for Miss Baroni. And so I have all those in my kitchen drying. You'll probably see those in another video. And I have a picture and name thing with list of all the kinds of mushrooms, so that I can make sure none of them are poison. I'm pretty sure most of the ones that I have are edible though. I could have picked some really interesting ones that most likely were poison, but I just left them in nature, which, you know, if I'm not going to use something or eat it or whatever, I prefer to leave it. Oh, Joy brought it out here so you guys can see. Here you go. This is my tray of mushrooms. And so I'm going to dry them and probably use them to make a soup or stir fry or something yummy. Okay, and then so the stars being out in the middle of the mountains like that, where there's no lights, no city, the stars are just so spectacular. I've been to camping trips and places in the mountains, but I really don't remember ever seeing it look that amazing. You can see just into the it feels like you can see into the other galaxies just with how many stars there were. I was just amazed. I was totally in awe. Right behind our tent was a river. Thank goodness we were on the riverside, because I probably would have been a lot less happy if I was on the other side. The river was right behind our tent, so when we slept all night long, you could hear the river running. We were in a place where every year, except this year, the people who were on the camping trip saw bears, and bears did go through the camp, although there's never been like a bear attack or anything like that. Although one year, somebody told me that a bear took one of the guy's food, and the guy actually chased the bear for the food. Craziness. I didn't see too much wildlife, but one night, at night, when everybody else would go to sleep, because there was a certain time when everybody's fires had to be out and everything, so pretty much people were asleep pretty early. And I would go out in the pitch dark, and I'd go sit right by the river and try to do some ritual. And I would lay on the rocks by the river and look up at the stars, and it was just so amazing. I saw 3 shooting stars during the trip. I would stay out there as long as I could stand it, because it gets really cold at night. Like really, really cold. One of the nights I thought I was actually literally going to just die in my sleep and not wake up, because it was literally that cold. The funny part of this trip was that my husband forgot my luggage. I'm like usually a really good packer. I pack everything that I think people might have forgotten. Extra socks, extra sweatshirts, toiletries, things for injuries, and all that kind of stuff. So everything was in my suitcase, of course. Thankfully, I had the kids pack their own bags, so they each had like a bag of what they wanted. But mine and my husband's clothes were in the suitcase. So he left the suitcase, and I had literally nothing. No clothes, no underwear, no nothing. So one of the ladies on the first night was nice enough to drive me pretty far out of the way. I think it took us half an hour to get there to a store. And I was able to get a couple flannels and a pair of socks, but the store had not a lot. But we survived. It was so cold though, and I really wish I had all the stuff that I had in my suitcase, because I had packed really appropriate stuff. I had my Indian moccasins for walking in the woods, nice and quiet but comfy, and but I stayed out at the river in the dark as long as I could until it got really cold. And so one of the nights, on the first night, a muskrat actually scurried right. It came out from the rock behind me, and it actually rubbed against me and scurried off. So that was one little wildlife creature I saw. I did see several other muskrats during the day too. We found a little salamander by the river. It was like hiding under a rock. What else? Oh, I found a baby praying mantis, which was pretty cool. But that's about it. We didn't really see any animals. People always look for moose and bear, but we didn't see any. For those of you who don't know, I was at a retreat years ago when John and Joy were little, and our van actually hit a moose, and we came really close to dying. The van was totaled. The jaws of life had to pull me out. I was like actually trapped in there, the worst out of everybody. Glass was like all in my body, and I have a big scar on my foot from it that looks like a caterpillar, because they couldn't get quite all the glass pieces out, and it was a pretty big gouge on my foot. But we were lucky not to have been killed. The deer was killed, and it went flying over the van, and somebody else's car also ran over it, so we all got taken off to the hospital. But I was so like dizzy from hitting my head and stuff that I was so out of it, I wouldn't let the Jaws of Life guys pull me out of the wreckage because my shoe fell off. And I was like, no, I have to find my shoe. No, you won't take me until I find it. And I actually did find the shoe. And so I found my shoe and let them take me to the hospital. But yeah, so I'm not too crazy about seeing moose. So one of the nights when I was doing ritual, I was doing an ancestor kind of thing, talking to my ancestors. And I have my great-grandfather on my paternal side is Native American. And so I had my head on the ground looking up, and I swear I could hear a faint sound of Native American like drumming and chanting, like oh, oh. But it was faint. But it was coming from the under the ground, under the rocks, like through the earth. And it was amazing. And I know that it was a spiritual experience. I remember having something like that in my old home. But it was, I could hear old-fashioned music that sounded like it was coming from a radio, but there was no radio in the house. And I would try to get closer to the sound, but no matter where I went, the sound would just stay at that same level. There was no getting closer or further. It just stayed at that level, no matter where in the house I went. So, but the drumming and the chanting sound was similar to that. It didn't last very long, but it was really cool. It was a very profound experience. The stars were amazing. Everything, the sound, hearing that sound of the river and being in the pitch black, you really, it's wonderful to use your different senses, each one individually. I did some breathing, meditation kind of stuff, and that was just really beautiful to do because the air up there is just so fresh and so exhilarating, and you feel like your whole body start to tingle with the feeling of it all. It's just spectacular. I could live out in the mountains, but maybe someday, hopefully when I retire or something, I can buy a little piece of property somewhere and just be happy out in nature. My kids were fishing, all the boys, John, Kyle, and Nico were with us. My husband's son from his first marriage, my son from my first marriage, they're both 15, and John is 11. So they were fishing, but they had to kind of fly fish, but they didn't have fly fishing poles. So they didn't actually catch any fish. But they had a fun time, and they went rafting on the river. We roasted marshmallows, and it was really relaxing. It was a wonderful trip. And yeah, so I thought I would share that with you guys. And I missed everybody on Facebook and YouTube and everything. My garden survived us being gone. I had to bring the potted stuff into this room, into it's more moist and not quite as much direct sunlight. So because otherwise the stuff would have dried out and it would have died. So yeah. So my garden's doing really well. I'll make a video soon and show you that. I'm not sure if the vine stuff that I have growing crazy is pumpkins or watermelon. I'm thinking it might be pumpkins because now it's really growing out of control. Like, it's everywhere. It's coming up into the stairs into the house and stuff. And I think the watermelons would have already turned into watermelons. Pumpkins are very late season, so right now there's just so many flowers on the vines. But that would be really cool. If they're pumpkins, I'm gonna have a lot of pumpkins. So yeah, I'm happy. I miss my pets. That was one of the things that I missed while I was in the camping trip. Oh, in case anyone doesn't know who watches my videos, there is an amazing meteor shower from tomorrow to the 15th. It's supposed to be 50 to 100 shooting stars per hour. I really wish we had gone on the camping trip during the meteor shower because that would have been amazing. I really am doubting that it's going to be as visible as it would be anywhere else. It's supposed to be like a really amazing event, visible from everywhere in the world. But I've gotten out of the habit of making wishes. The first shooting star I ever saw was, I think I was about 15, 16 years old, in Cape Cod at the ocean. And I made a wish with that first star, but I don't know. I have given up wishing at this point. Yeah, so I hope you guys are gonna watch the shooting stars. I really think I'm gonna start trying to learn all the constellations. I know the ones that my grandfather taught me when I was little, but I really want to learn them so that I can recognize them easier. And I'd like to get a telescope. In the old days, I was so terrified to learn astrology or astronomy, but now that I have this workbook I'm working on, it's all starting to click and make sense. And once you know astrology, it really helps with your practice because the zodiac and astrology relates to science, which relates to psychology, to the elements, to the periodic table and all of that. And once like it clicks in your brain, it really gives you a huge scope of knowledge and access to how things work. So this is a pretty long video. I'm sorry I rambled on for so long, but I missed you guys, and I hope everybody's well and having a wonderful summer. And check out the shooting stars. All right, blessed be. Bye.